So we got Shanti's passport, we got the ticket, and we left. I think we came by Air India that time. And we had to connect through London, and the flight was London to Chicago because we were in Urbana-Champaign. It was a 3 hour drive to Chicago, three to 4 hour drive at that time. And in London, at that time was the air traffic controller ATC strike going on. So all flights were cancelled, and they said our flight will only leave the next day. So we were given a hotel room and stayed there for the night. And the next day we came, and of course the flight was there. Because the plane that we went in, that was the same plane that was supposed to take us to Chicago. So the plane was still standing there. It was just a one-day strike by the air traffic controllers. So we landed in Champaign, and let's see, how did we go from Champagne to? I don't know how we went. Maybe it was a flight or a bus. One of those two. We went to Champagne, and as soon as we went, of course, few days we stayed in the apartment that I was renting, 3 4 days. And they had a very nice system of married student apartments that was always available. So as soon as I went there, and before that, I contacted some of my friends, and they had already spoken and made arrangements. All I had to do was go there, pay the deposit, pick up the keys, and then we moved in. And first night we stayed at Nagarajan's house. His new wife, who got married the day after we landed in India, Revati. So we stayed with them for one night, slept through the jet lag, and then moved into our apartment. One of the things we used to do while we were in Champagne was once every 2 months, somebody had a car. I had a car first, and after that, I'll tell you what happened. We used to drive to Chicago to buy Indian groceries. There was a place in Chicago, like Little India. It was called Devon Street. So we went there and we bought our groceries, and then we most of the time ate in a place. I think it was by the lake shore. It was called Akbar Restaurant. It was a Akbar Restaurant buffet place, and at that time the buffet and all food was like $3.95 or $4.95, all you could eat. And we would all just go there and pig out on a plate load of tandoori chicken, followed by a plate load of biryani. And so we used to make fun and say, oh, the guy will say, they're going to put up our photos there on the wall the next time we come, with a notice, beware of these guys. That's how much we used to eat. So it was a fun trip because we were three and a half. We were like 2 or 3 couples who went. We were packed in the car. Those days, of course, there were no kids, so it made it easy. Then, my assistantship, I was getting about $500, and it wasn't enough. So I looked around and I got we could work as a fellowship. Fellowship was considered 50% of our time, and we could work up to 2/3 our time, and 1/3 we were student. Then only then we qualified for the student visa. So I had 50% was my fellowship, so I could work another 17 hours. So I looked for a job, and there was a programming job available. I was one of those ardent, passionate coders, programming guys from Pilani itself. Pilani days is where my bases were laid in me for becoming a programming. And those days was all mainframe computers. We did not have these personal computers today, which everybody has. Uh, it was not even invented. It didn't come to the market till the mid 80s. And this I'm talking about 81, 82. So I found a job in one of the departments. I think it was the university database department or something. The mainframe computer was situated in the Chicago campus, and we had to write the program. Basically, we get requests of we need a list of people with these qualities, demographics. And the language they used was something I had never used. So the first 1 week to 2 weeks in the job was learning the program. It's called Mark 4. Mark 4. It was a kind of a very cryptic database language, which I learned, and within a week actually, because I was very proficient in programming, I was able to run these extracts for them people. And some of the extracts used to run, those days computer paper, and it used to be like 4 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet tall stack, that many number of papers, thousands, 10,000, 20,000 papers, sheets. So sometimes some of the programmers, we would make a mistake, and the run would run with the wrong extract, and then it would come, and whoever is the customer within the university would look at it and say, this is not what I ordered, I want it this way. So we used to call those stacks of leftover papers as furniture. So hey, so and so got us a furniture today, he got us a furniture. So that used to happen sometimes because that language was so cryptic, I remember. It was, and those days, periods, comma, semicolon, all these meant different things. If where you have to put a period, if you put a comma, the program would run in an unlimited loop because of the comma. I think that language was PL1, the mainframe language. Now, of course, things are so much much easy. The other thing is about my car. So Shanti's uncle, that is father's younger brother, was in Toronto, and Toronto was about, I think, 4 hours drive from Chicago. So they had invited us, and we decided to go there. So I went in my car, that old station wagon. We went and we stayed with them for about a week. And then, being newly married, and uncle, they sent us some gifts. His wife was a Filipino nurse, excellent, wonderful woman. They really, really took care of us, treated us very well. Then sent us back with a lot of gifts because we had a big station wagon. So they packed stuff, a lot of stuff. Then I came through Buffalo. From Toronto, we could come down through Niagara Falls to Buffalo, and then from Buffalo, I could take the Route 80 or Route 90 to Chicago. And in Buffalo, as I was taking the exit to go to a friend's house in Buffalo, something happened to the car. I think the car used to lose a lot of oil. And I was driving from Toronto, and at one point I think it ran out of oil, and I had driven quite a few miles without oil in the car. The cars those days were not like today's. Every morning or every week we had to open the trunk, bonnet, the front, and there's a dipstick. We had to check how much oil is there. If oil is a little low, we had to have cans, we would top it off. And in fact, I even remember I had a case of cans in the car, which I used to keep on topping off every day because almost half the oil would be lost in one day. So the car, started kind of, I don't think it caught on fire, but it was pretty close. So we had to dump the car in Buffalo and stayed with my friend Chandrasekhar and Radhika. Unfortunately, Chandrasekhar has died now. He died there at that time itself, within a few years of us leaving the place. And we took a bus from there to Champaign. And a friend of mine, Ramanathan, he had a bug beetle car. He came in that, and we could not take everything that was packed in our car, so we left so many of them in Chandrasekhar's house, and we brought what we could bring with us to Champaign. And then we lived without a car, which was fine because from the married student apartments there was bus and everything was right there within a bus ride. We used to get a pass, a monthly pass, $5 or something, unlimited use of the bus. So that's how my married life started. And then in the first year, Shanti got pregnant, and my eldest daughter Shirley was due in April, and I was going to graduate in. I had decided to graduate as soon as Shanti got pregnant. I decided to graduate because after the child came, I could not afford to live on this 500 plus another about $150 or $200 a month from that programming job. So I had decided to break. I was going to go ahead and finish my PhD. So I dropped the idea of the PhD. I went, what they call ABD, all but dissertation. So I went there and I told my professor. My professor was very sympathetic. He says, I know exactly what you are saying because that is what happened to me also. The same thing had happened to him. So he said, okay, fine, you go after you settle down in your job. You can, if you think it is right time, come back and finish your PhD. I said, okay. And meanwhile, by about November, I had gotten a job offer from New York. Dr. Jagdish Sheth, my professor, had sent a guy like me before me, his name was Naveen, to go there to work on that job. And Naveen apparently quit his job and went to California. So those days California was nothing. And so Mr. Rayner, Bob Rayner, he was so impressed with Naveen, and he called up Dr. Jagdish Sheth and he said he wants him to find another person, and he wanted an Indian guy because Naveen used to work a ton, and he thought all Indians were like that, which of course I turned out to be, like more than Naveen for the hours I had put. So I had got a job offer in November, and he wanted me to come and join immediately because Naveen had left. But I was going to graduate only in May, so I didn't know what to do. So my professor suggested that I go consult with an attorney, an immigration attorney. And that immigration attorney was his contact in Chicago. I called him up and fixed an appointment. And he said, okay, come on over. He gave me a time. And he insisted, bring $150 or something like that as his fees. He insisted I bring that with me as cash or something. So I took a train. That was my first train ride experience in the US, from Champaign to Chicago. And then when I got down there in the train station, Union Station, He was just about a block away. So I went and met him, and the first thing is pay him the fees. And then he talked about, we were there about an hour. I was there about an hour. And he gave me good advice. He says, it's very tempting at this now 6 months, just 6 months before you graduate, you can take a job. But he said, if you're planning to live in this country, he said, I would advise you to finish, graduate, and then take up the job. He said, if this job is not there, you will get another job. Programming job and all is not easy to fill, so you will get a job very easily. And so that was good advice. So I came back to Champaign and I called up Mr. Rayner, Bob, and told him that this is the case. I cannot come till May because I'm a foreigner and my visa problems will be there. So he said, that's fine, I will manage for 6 months, you come and join me. Because he was also a programmer, but because we would do the work, he stayed in the background. So then Shirley was born. My mother had come to help us with the delivery, and Shirley was born. And Shirley was 4 weeks old, 1 month. I had also just bought a car, and the car was about 2,000 or 2,500. And how I was able to afford to buy the car was, there was a company called Penta Solutions or something. It was run by an Indian guy, and they used to have a need for a Fortran programmer every now and then. So they used to give me the job, and I had earned about $2,000 or $3,000. It was just a 1 month work, but hectic work. So I had that money with which I bought a car. I remember it was a Caprice Classic car. It was a green car, 6-cylinder, and the top was made of this kind of vinyl. It was a soft top. It wasn't convertible, but it was just that soft top. It was beige in color with the green thing. It could easily hold 3-4 people in the back seat, and in the front was also one of those old bench seats. In front also 3-4 people could sit, and those days there was no seat belts. We never wore seat belts at that time. So there was no law to have a baby seat and all that. Those things came over time after a lot of accidents and stuff. So my mom would sit in the back seat with Shirley. Shirley would be laid on the seat. And luckily it was a bench seat that kind of sloped down and then up. So she was only 4 weeks old. So she wouldn't move on her own. So we kept her there, and then we drove all the way. We went, I think, first straight to Boston because we had my cousin, Shanti's cousin actually, Felix Sebastian and his wife Lily, with their 2 children were there, sons. So in fact, Felix was the one who had sponsored my mother for the visa. So we went to their house and I left them, and then I came to New York, joined in my job, and went apartment hunting, and I fixed a short-term rental place in Queens. But I was so unhappy with those apartments in Queens. They were like 100-year-old apartments. Paint was like 10 coats or something. You could see them peeling. I used to curse myself. Oh my God, what kind of place have I landed in? And then, luckily, I met somebody else in New York when I was working there 1 or 2 weeks. Mr. Ramesh Rao. He had rented a house because he was expecting his family in one of the nice condominium buildings. So then I was telling him what happened to me and how I fixed this place, but I'm not happy at all. He said, "Don't worry. Why don't you come and stay with us? Bring your family, and then you can look for an apartment." So then I was so happy, that he gave us his apartment. His was a 2 bedroom. He gave us 1 bedroom, and he stayed in the other. Uh, and in that there were a lot of Indians, and there was one gentleman, I don't remember his name, from Tirunelveli, who used to be an excellent cook. So he was in the floor down, one below or something, and he used to run almost a mess. He went for a job, but then he used to come and he used to cook dinner for everybody, and everybody would share the cost with him. And so that was a great arrangement for food. So I used to eat there initially, but then after my family joined me, we cooked, and Mr. Ramesh Rao also ate with us. And from there, people suggested you go to New Jersey, you will find nice apartments. So we went to New Jersey, saw an apartment about exactly 50 minutes bus drive from New York Port Authority. It was a place called Parlin, New Jersey. It was actually part of a larger Sayreville, and there was like hundreds of apartments in a complex, just 2-storied each. That was called London Terrace Apartments. So we went there, we got an apartment, we stayed there. In fact, there were so many Indians in that apartment complex. The lady at the rental office said we call this Bombay Terrace Apartments. It's like literally 40-50% of the 100-200 apartments were Indians. So we took an apartment there, stayed, moved there, and we were very happy. Meanwhile, Ramesh Rao's family had come and joined him, and we invited them over for a weekend. And they came here and they loved our apartment complex. And so the wife and daughter, I remember wife Nirupama and daughter Meena, they were not happy with that New York apartment at all, because just the previous week Ramesh Rao had got mugged. So they said, no, we are not going to live here. So when they came to New Jersey, saw our apartment, they fell in love. And they also took an apartment literally in 2 buildings away, 2 apartment blocks away. And they also moved here. And then they used to babysit Shirley a lot. So that is how we started our life in New York. I used to go and work and